so much, Dr. Jelinek, who is the engine behind this collaboration. And I would like to thank him for that, and also thank the organizer for the kind invitation. We had the opportunity yesterday to meet Dr. Chodick, who is the founder of the MVSO, and it was really amazing to hear the story and to see an academic entrepreneur who is behind all these structures and organization, and he showed us his plans for the future. It was truly amazing and very inspiring. So I would like to tell you more today about the use of real-world data. And I've heard that there are several data scientists in the crowd talking about the use of the real-world data in primary care settings. And maybe I'll start with this. This is a Harvard business case study that was written about Maccabi Tech, and it is being taught in the Harvard Business School since 2019, and it is still being taught there. And I think it's a good read about what we do at Maccabi Tech in terms of use of data. A word about the Israel National Health Insurance Law. Israel enjoys a universal health insurance since 1995. Every Israeli citizen is covered by law with an insurance plan, and all the services are written in the law, and there is a basket of services that should be provided to every citizen free of charge. And Maccabi is one of the 4 HMOs that provide service to the Israeli population. We have a countrywide distribution of our services. Membership is absolutely free. We cannot bar anyone from joining. And the funding comes from 4.8% health tax, and the rest come from the general taxpayer money. So we account currently about 25%, 26% of the Israeli population, and the Israeli population is a bit smaller than the Czech Republic. We have about 9.5 million citizens in Israel. And there are 3 other HMOs. Clalit is the largest one, and it's the 2nd largest health organization in the world. We have 9,000 employees, and since membership is absolutely free and doesn't relate to the place you work or place you live, the retention rate is very high. Less than 1% of our members are moving out of the network. We also own Asuta Medical Centers, which is the largest private medical center in Israel, and 700 pharmacies, and the total income budget of Maccabi is about $4.5 billion a year. Having a unique databases and data capabilities, we are the only non-US organization that belongs to the healthcare system research network, which unifies the largest players in the US market, including the Kaiser Permanente in North and South California, which are the largest non-governmental health organizations in the world. And even within the network, where our advantages is the high retention rate, the long history of medical data that goes back to 1993, and we are the youngest of all our collaborating organization. So Maccabi has computerized its entire data in the mid-90s. That means that all physicians work on unified EMR, electronic medical record. All pharmacies are connected, hospitalizations, primary care clinics, one central lab that provides service to the entire network. And of course, our members can log in and view their medical records, ask for prescriptions, consultation with the physician, and many more. We also have 24 image centers that collect the images, and this accounts for more than 90% of the data, and the total data is about 2 petabytes of information. And we try to use it for research and more educated decision-making. So the data captured includes demographics, household members, mortality, of course, diagnosis, prescriptions, hospitalization, lab tests, all visits, and actually every interaction within the system is captured. So everything is electronic. We have a unified EMR that allows physicians to log in and see patients no matter where he stays in the world. Just to give an idea, this is the number of images taken in 1 year in different modalities, CTs, MRIs, and everything is captured together with the medical history and diagnosis. It's a huge mass of information. On top of the crude data, we have developed over the years automatic registries of chronically ill patients. This goes for diabetes with 181,000 patients, cardiovascular diseases, female infertility, hypertension with nearly 300,000 patients within our 2.6 million membership. Cancer, this is cross-linked with the National Cancer Registry, etc., including osteoporosis and osteopenia, which is almost 150,000 patients. And these are the age and sex-specific prevalence rates of different chronic conditions. And you can see, and you can note that hypertension is very prevalent. At the age of 70 or 80% of our members are hypertensive. And once you have all the data, and since we also pay for all services, we can assess the cost of every disease. And you can see, for instance, that hypertension accounts for almost 10% of our direct medical expenditure. This is the light green here. You can also see that infertility in the younger age, the fertility age, is very substantial in terms of costs. And Israel is very generous in infertility care. Recently, we also collect more subjective data on quality of life and severity of disease. We send patients a questionnaire, electronic questionnaire via the app, and if they agree to answer questionnaires, this goes to a secure website. We started with IBD patients with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis that have been put on biologics. And we wanted to see whether the biologics really help. So these patients are asked to answer questions every quarter, and this is transmitted to the family physician who can show them, see, 3 months ago, your severity score was that, you had stomach aches and different severe symptoms, and now you're doing better or worse. And I think this is a very important for diseases that are more softer, when you don't have a clear evidence to show severity. But I think that most important, and that will be a major part of my talk, would be using data and decision related to the COVID-19 epidemic. And this is maybe the first example. On March 17, 2020, just 3 weeks after the epidemic started in Israel, a paper came up in the Journal of Medical Travel, hypothesizing that use of ACE inhibitors, which is the most popular medication for hypertension, may increase the likelihood of getting COVID. It was written by 2 physicians, and many patients started to ask their physicians in Maccabi whether they should discontinue the therapy for hypertension. Please recall, we have 300,000 hypertensive patients in Maccabi. Most of them take ACE inhibitor. If only 10% of them will discontinue the therapy, we would have hundreds of strokes, hundreds of MIs, huge burden. So physicians were asking us. So the CEO of Maccabi approached us, should we discontinue? Of course, if you ask the government, the Minister of Health, you wouldn't get any response. So we had to do a study, and please pay attention, the paper came out on March 17. On March 25, we have submitted our paper. Since we have the data readily available, it took us 48 hours to write a paper, to do the analysis, to do a case control study with all cases of COVID that we had, and publish the paper. Shows no association between ACE inhibitors and COVID-19. And on May 15, there was a meta-analysis, a literature review of several studies that really supports our conclusion. And I think that if 3 years ago you would tell me that we have a question, a week later a paper, and 2 months later a meta-analysis or literature review, I wouldn't believe, but this is what COVID taught us, to be very quick and get the answers quickly. Another burning issue was when the vaccines came out. And Israel was very quick in the rollout of the Pfizer vaccine. We started very early in January, actually December 31st, December 21, 2020. And hundreds of patients, actually 100,000 patients were vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine a day in the high days of the rollout. But as we were vaccinating more and more patients, and more members, and we were very quick. Israel was the first country in the world to have a very high vaccination rate. We had the third wave. So there was a surrealistic case where you vaccinate more and more, and people get more and more infected. So in January, early January, the CEO approached us again and said, is there something wrong with our vaccines? No, the vaccines require a frozen chain. So from the time they get into the airport, they had to be in -70 until they get to the patient's arm. Now, Israel, it's not trivial. Getting the vaccine in -70 to the northern of Israel, although it's not very far, travel is not always perfect. Israelis are not known for their very strict keeping, standards. So they said, maybe we're doing something wrong and the vaccines do not work as they should have. So again, we had several sleepless nights, and we went back to this publication that shows the phase 3 trial of the Pfizer vaccine, and we did a study using our data. And our first paper came out on medRxiv, which is, it's open for everyone, on January 29th, 2021, just a month after the beginning of the rollout. And it showed effectiveness. It showed that the first dose had 50% effectiveness, exactly as it was told by Pfizer in the clinical trial. And that was really reassuring. And indeed, after a month, the wave was over. And also we went back to the lab and used the lab data, and indeed we saw that after 2 weeks there is a huge increase in the CT, so that the viral load of those infected gets lower. So this also was a support for our conclusion, and this was published in Nature Medicine. So we did analysis from 2 different angles, got the same results, published the results, and told our CEO, continue with the vaccination effort, it works. And then, of course, we did the similar analysis with the second dose, et cetera, and then we had an issue with pregnant women. Pregnant women were not included in the Pfizer study. So should we vaccinate? Shouldn't we vaccinate? So Israel allowed pregnant women to get vaccinated, and we showed it's very highly effective in pregnant women. This is actually the first study in the world, no phase 3. And also now we published in JAMA Pediatrics that it's safe for the newborn. And then we saw, of course, after several months that there is a decline in the effectiveness. Within 6 months, the effectiveness declines, and this is also a very timely report. So, in short, when you have good data, well-organized data, and we have a trained team that works with the data on a regular basis, when you have a crisis, they can help you very quickly, and no one can support you more than the data, than your organization's data. So currently, our long-term goal is to move from descriptive study, such as those that I just mentioned, showing you what happened, to predictive study, what will happen, who will get infected, who will have the stroke, etc., etc. And the ultimate goal is to have prescriptive study, not tell you only who will get the disease, but what should you do about it? Proactive. And one example is a Facebook campaign. We did a Facebook campaign to see who will not get vaccinated with the HPV vaccine in 14-year-old girls at 8th grade. And indeed, the campaign was very interesting. We did like a big brother. We identified the mothers of those 14-year-old girls. We had a campaign launched in the summer, and 20% were kept aside. We didn't do any promotion. And a year later, we saw who will get vaccinated, who won't. And this is a very interesting exercise. One of our early AI implemented in real-world routine work is identification of colorectal cancer. This is the first, and it's been 10 years now since a physician in the institute has identified a patient with colorectal cancer. And this man, he's a 17-year-old man, he came to the office with a diagnosed colorectal cancer, and the physician, Professor Vada Shalev, went back to his records. And she noticed that the patient was never anemic. How do you know he was never anemic? If the patient is anemic, the result comes in red. And here you can see all the tests were normal. They came in black. But when you look closely, you can see that the patient, the hemoglobin level were declining within the normal range. He had 15, and whatever is that, and then it declined to 14, etc., etc. So the patient was bleeding, but his blood level was in the normal range. So the patient had a cancer, but no one could tell that. For a physician, this is, you can't expect a physician to go back and do the math and look at the lab test, but for a computer, this is a very, very easy task. So now we let a computer run over all blood tests of our patients within the screening age, and indeed, these are the numbers. We were able to identify 320 patients with polyps and 73 patients with cancer, only due to the algorithm that runs over the blood test, and this is implemented more for long term. This is K-Health. You can, I'm not sure it's in the local app, but in the US app, you can download, it's a robot actually. It asks for symptoms and makes the diagnosis based on AI, not based on rule-based, like other symptom checker. This is a deep learning machine. And it was very useful during the epidemics where physician nurses didn't have time to answer many calls. So I have the bot asking the right questions and giving the right answers. And me, myself, a year ago, less than a year, I felt not that good. I have a stomach ache. And I said, let's play with this, why not? And it told me I have appendicitis. Which was not very typical. I mean, I had the pain here, not there. I went to the hospital. They were laughing about it, of course, but 10 hours later, I was operated. So I do believe in this, and this is only the beginning. It's going to be developed for future uses. I'll run fast on other, because I see my time is running out, and maybe I'll conclude with this. We have a lot of data, but it's only observational data. We don't have a lot of genetic data. So for that, we opened in 2017 an option for our patients and our members to opt in for a biobank. So every patient that or he or she are willing to do so are opting in, signing an informed consent, and every time they have a blood test or a urine test, one tube is kept for research. And now we have 200,000 patients that already opt in. Millions of tubes are stored in our refrigerator and used for research. So now, in the future, near future, we'll be able to tell not the characteristics of the patient, but also his genetics. Maybe this is the final slide. We allow external researchers who want to work on Maccabi data a platform with synthetic data layer, which is fully de-identified and can be used for researchers and startup companies that have some interest in medical data for innovation. So they're most welcome to contact us and see what we can help. And more information is in this website. So that's all, and thank you so much again.